Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stand. Manchester United have beaten Charlton Athletic 3-0 and we progress through to I nearly said the Champions League semi-final. That would be great, wouldn't it? If you win the Carabao Cup quarter-final, you're into the Champions League semi-final. No, we're into the Carabao Cup semi-final, which will be very interesting. 2 legs. Don't know why we're having to do that in a World Cup season, but 2 legs. Could be Newcastle, could be Man City. Hopefully we get the winners of Wolves or Forest. We'll find that out tomorrow night. But I just want to say there's a few things I want to say at the start. Do the player ratings. Link in the video description. Mark everyone out of 10. 6 being the average. Star for your man of the match. I think there's been some good performances tonight. I think there's been some people who really should, I think, do better against League 2 mid-table opposition. I think certain players tonight, Garnacho, Fred, Casemiro, Rashford, they played against mid-table League 1 opposition like you would expect. They devoured them. They dominated them. Rashford's 2 finishes, brilliant. And he's doing that at the highest level. But you'd expect a player like Rashford to find it easy against Charlton Athletic. And Casemiro as well. Easy. And they showed that they are right in the groove at the moment. But I think there's a couple of United players who've shown that they are a long way off the groove and really need to step it up. And have we finally found, and I just want to say before I say this, I think Erik ten Hag is a tactical genius at the moment, and I cannot wait for that Manchester derby on Saturday so we can see what the genuine progress is. We went to the Etihad back in the autumn, we were ill-prepared and we got annihilated. Since then, the progression, the rotation has been marvellous, and since Christmas it's been superb. I think it's so important on Saturday that we get a result and we show progression, because I think if Man City beat us like they have done in the last few games, that will burst the bubble of optimism and progress that I think Ten Hag has worked so well to get. And tonight was a prime example of that again. The team he picked surprised me. He still picked Martinez, Delo. I think he wanted some match sharpness there. And the front 3, to me, looked a bit weak. Antony, Alanga down the middle, Garnacho, you've got Mainu making a debut, Fred, McTominay. You think, well, we're going to struggle to score. And I thought, there were weak areas, but there were some really good performances. I thought Mainu, for a debut at 17, did absolutely fine. Garnacho was fantastic. Antony scored a goal. Fred was brilliant. So if I was the Charlton team, I would have seen that team from United. I would have gone, I fancy a chance. I really do. And United never really gave them a chance. So, and the big positive is, there's some people saying it was a boring game tonight, we weren't that good, but we've won 3-0. Charlton never really looked like scoring, and we've rested. Luke Shaw and Varane haven't kicked a ball. That's a week off. Bruno was suspended anyway, but that could have weakened us. Martial's not kicked a ball. That's 4 really important players who've had a week off in a very hectic season. So I think the rotation from Ten Hag and the way he's planned these last few weeks, it's not easy to do it. And he's won every single game. It's been fantastic. But I think we might have found a weakness. Jonathan, welcome to the Members Club. Also Jason as well. Maguire's form is still inconsistent, says Grant. Also, based purely off that 10 minutes, I can't understand why Pellistri isn't getting minutes ahead of Alanga, says McElvis. I'm sorry, but McTominay, with all his first-team experience, should have dominated the midfield, but he hid like usual, says Stephen. Pellistri showed more quality in 10 minutes than Alanga has this season. Nothing against the kid, but he should go on loan, says Dejan. And another clean sheet for the fridge. Get ready for the Instagram story. I believe in Man United again. Ten Hag is sourcing. Hope we win a cup this season, says Lil. Mate, the positivity, momentum, and excitement is so great to see, and I feel it. I really, really do. Despite the frustrations of the transfer window, we've had that with these owners for years, so that's nothing new. Focusing on, I think for so long, the transfer window was more interesting than the actual football. The football's way more interesting than the transfer window, and that's refreshing to see, and it's enjoyable, and some of the football's really good, and some of the goals we're scoring are really good. I thought the second goal, Casemiro's pass to Pellistri, was delightful. Pellestri's pass to Rashford was superb, and the finish by Rashford was immaculate as well. Jason's talking about Pellistri. Well, look, you know what? There is always improvement. There is always areas of improvement, and Ten Hag says good is not good enough. Have we found a weakness of Ten Hag? It's been hard. It's been hard to find it, but I think we might have found it, maybe. Pellistri looked brilliant when he came on, says Arstic. Well, I'm going to talk about it. I think you've got to ask the question, why Pellistri hasn't been getting any game time. I like Pellistri. To be fair, we've only ever seen glimpses in a United shirt. But when he came on for Uruguay in the World Cup, I was like, look, you can't buy somebody off the World Cup. The World Cup is international football. But when you've got a Man United player that can't get anywhere near the bench, playing on the right wing for Uruguay in a World Cup with the likes of Suarez and Cavani and Bentancur, and he played really well, skipping past players, you're like, I don't think Elanga would be doing that for Sweden in a World Cup. And yet, for the last 5 months, we've seen Elanga giving chance after chance after chance. And I like Elanga. You know, I like Elanga, but you've got to be constructive and you've got to be real. I've been saying for a while, Elanga's been over-promoted for a year. He ain't ready for this gig. He's not. He needs to go into the Championship and see if he's ready for the Premier League. But he's been given chance after chance after chance. Tonight, he starts against a League One side up front and didn't look any better than he does when he plays on the wing against the Premier League side. They didn't seem... It's the same old Elanga. He needs to go on loan. Pellistri comes on for 10 minutes and in 10 minutes does more than Elanga's done in 10 months. It was exciting. He reminds me of a Manchester City player. He's got that Bernardo Silva, David Silva, low centre of gravity. He caresses the ball. You know, he makes things happen. I think he's a really intriguing player. And whenever anyone's mentioned Pellistri in the past, they've always said, well, he's clearly going to go on loan because, Ten Hag sees him in training every week. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't rate him, whatever. But I think what we saw from Pellistri again tonight was what we saw in the World Cup. There's a player there. And it would be a shame to let a player like that go because I think those sort of players, they're few and far between. These low centre gravity players that can glide with the ball and take people on and play intricate little passes. You know, we're crying out for a number 10. We're crying out for a number 10 to help out with the Bruno shift. Could he do that? He certainly could do something off the right wing. I'd love to see more of Pellistri. And, you know, maybe we have found something finally where we can be constructive to Ten Hag, who we all love and is brilliant, and say, maybe he needs to do something there. Because I think everything else Ten Hag's doing at the moment is superb. But I would like to see a bit more. But I think the reason he uses Elanga, by the way, is because Elanga is fast and physical, and I think that obviously Erik Ten Hag quite likes that. But I like Pellistri. I'd like to see more of him. I think it'd be a shame to let him go. But the manager's the manager, and you've got to trust the manager, and I think we all do. But I do like Pellistri. I think he's very different to Garnacho. I think Garnacho is more power, direct, whereas I think Pellestri's more guile. I don't think you could play Pellistri off the right and Garnacho off the left, but we're not looking to do that. They're both young players. You've got Antony and Rashford for the senior and Sancho. Maybe we've got too many, I don't know, but I like Pellistri. Great performance. Pellistri showing some potential. Erik Ten Hag pulling out the aces, says SK. Not getting carried away. Proud of the team. The test are City, and I can't wait. You know what, SK? I completely agree. I think that McTominay Elanga wouldn't even get into Charlton's team, says United section. Make sure you smash a like on the video and please do subscribe. We're getting so close to 550k. Thanks everyone who's tuning in. You know what? I'm excited. I think we're all excited. I don't think this fan base is capable of over-egging the pudding or running away with ourselves. I think City do look vulnerable. It's at Old Trafford. We're in a really good run. Some players are in stupidly good form. And I feel, if you can ever feel a result, I feel we will get a result against Man City on Saturday because we have to get one. If we, you know, like when you're watching a film or a TV series and you're like, they can't kill that character off. It just wouldn't make any sense. I feel like Man United losing to City on Saturday doesn't make sense to the story because we're progressing. Yes, we need new owners. Yes, you know, we need more signings, but we are progressing. There's real potential. There's real optimism. There's real progression. It would make no sense for Man City to just brush us aside and beat us on Saturday. It would sort of go, I think we'd just be confused about where we are. The logical thing is that we get a positive result and then we keep building and building. And it feels like that. There's no guarantee that will happen. I mean, that's just fantasy, isn't it? But I do feel that the excitement and everything is that it feels logical that we'll get a result on Saturday. We're going to have to work for it. But, you know, Rashford is unbelievable at the moment. You know, he is, and I've seen this time after time. I've seen it with Rooney. I've seen it with Shearer. I've seen it with Andy Cole, Chris Sutton. You know, name me strikers, and I've seen it. They just get into this hot form. As much as Rashford's been in the last 18 months out of form, you can get in this hot form where everything you hit is going in. And where you're in bad form and you couldn't hit the ocean from a boat. He's playing really, really well. Casemiro again. I mean, he made 2 goals tonight. You know, he's a steady. I played the game. He's a steady Eddie. I'd love to know what a good player is then, because Casemiro controls the midfield, tackles everyone, and also creates goals. I mean, that's from CDM. He's just unbelievable. He is the definition of world class. So you've got Casemiro in world class form. You've got Rashford in world class form. You've got Bruno coming back hungry after a week off. You've got Varane, who's quality. De Gea's in goal. You've got Luke Shaw, who's in great form as well. You know, Martial's had a week off. Hopefully Delay will be fine. Martinez has had some game time. You go into it and you think, well, look, Man City are a very good team, but they're going to have to play very good to beat us, aren't they? This isn't a dig at Antony, but Garnacho gives us more down the left in terms of variety on the ball. He was brilliant in that first half, to see it. Yeah, but you've got to play Rashford off the left and you've got to play Martial down the middle. You know, Antony's a right winger, and you've just answered your own question. I think Garnacho works better off the left. What we might see happen on Sunday is we might see Bruno go to the right. We might see Eriksen go to the 10, and you might see a very good performance from Fred, earning him a start against Casemiro to give us a bit more bite in the midfield. I think that is the big conversation to have between now and the Man City game, is do you go with Eriksen next to Casemiro in a game of that magnitude? Because you know Man City are going to play Gundogan, Rodri and De Bruyne, and that's 3 people who are very good on the ball but are also very physical. Whereas Casemiro's physical and Eriksen and Bruno aren't. I think there is a big conversation in Erik Ten Hag's head this week. Do I play Fred in a game like this? It worked brilliantly against Spurs all those weeks ago, and he is playing very well at the moment. And I like Eriksen and I like Bruno, but we're playing Man City and they've got 3 very competitive physical midfielders, and I think we might need to have a conversation about whether we just put Fred in there. If it doesn't work, you can change it. But if you don't do it and it doesn't work, you might not be able to change it in time. SK says, let's not forget Antony. In 5 minutes, Pellistri completed more successful dribbles and take-ons than Antony and Alanga combined since the start of the year. Yeah, but Antony's scoring goals. I've got to say, I don't like the criticism of Antony. Like, he's been here 5 minutes. The price tag is not his fault. I feel that is, you know, really an unfair thing that is being levelled at him all the time. And it's a reason to be negative. If we'd paid 50 million quid for him, I don't think anyone would talk about it. So I think that Antony scored a very good goal tonight. And, you know, I've seen Rashford play shit and score a goal, and it's like, oh, Rashford's brilliant. Like, Antony scored a very good goal tonight. I think, look, he needs to settle. He needs to be more direct. He needs to take players on more. He can do it. But I think Antony is getting a lot of stick at the moment. And I don't know whether it's because of his, you know, his flamboyance, his price tag. But those 2 things are very, very fair. Very, very unfair. And, you know, I didn't see these things being levelled at Jadon Sancho in his first year. They're not even being levelled at him now in his second year. So I just think with Antony, he's the only player that's got a left foot. He actually is a very, very important player in the balance of our squad. If he's not good enough, he won't start games, but he will still be an important player because he's the only left-footed winger we've got. He brings balance to the team. The reason Ten Hag put Luke Shaw at left-sided centre-back and he didn't play Maguire and Lindelof is because he wanted a left-footed left centre-back to bring balance to the back 4. Antony brings balance to that front 3 because he's the one who's got the left foot. Pellistri has a higher ceiling than Antony, says you. What? So Pellistri's, I like Pellistri, right? But Pellistri's now got a higher ceiling than Antony because he played well for 10 minutes against Charlton. This fan base is better than that. I don't like this anymore, and I don't know why we're still doing it. It's a legacy of the toxic days where within this football club that we all support, we take sides against 2 players. It will probably happen with Weghorst. Pick Weghorst over Martial is shit. Why do people do that? Why do people internally create division and arguments in their own head and with other people? I want to see Antony progress. I want to see Pellistri progress. I'd like to see Alanga go on loan and progress. The more quality players we have at United, the better. I don't need to argue between 2 players about who's better and who I don't like. And this is what Ten Hag is trying to build. So get on board with it or be toxic. Did you call Casemiro in the watch-along this evening? Face blue, smiling, says Vladimir. And good win, but should have killed the game long ago. Pellistri looking good. If I had to choose between losing him or Alanga, I know who I would lose, says Arjun. And Mark, don't get me wrong, I'm not criticising Antony. It was meant as praise for Pellistri. I'd love Antony and love the goals he scores, says SK. I think patience is key. We've got so many players that almost reflect what Manchester United are. And let's not forget Kobe Mainoo tonight. I think that debut was good, and that's all you can hope for in your first game. If you're a striker, you sometimes score, but we've got so many players that are developmental. Dalot is still developing. Rashford is still developing. Malacia is developing. Martinez will be developing. Garnacho is very much developing. Pellistri hopefully will develop. Antony's got to develop. You know, there's so many players in that team that reflect what we are in general. Progression. Patience has to go with progression. We can't demand too much. We haven't won a trophy in 5 years. And I love the expectation. I love the hunger to succeed. But we must also look at the last 10 years of decay and rust and failure and realise, you know, worst ever Premier League side United have ever had last May. And people are starting to get impatient and demand this and demand that. We haven't won a trophy in 5 years. If we win the Carabao Cup and we only win the Carabao Cup, it would still be a good season. It's not what I want. I want a lot more, but progression is there. And that's why this derby is so important. Casemiro has brought balance to the force, says Mateus. You tell you what, if anything happens to Casemiro, we're screwed. I mean, look at the way the game changed tonight, but it would change against Man City if you started McTominay and you brought Casemiro on. We can't afford to lose Casemiro. He is that team. He is the heartbeat of that team. You know, there's some really good performances going on around him. Luke Shaw, Marcus Rashford at the moment. But Casemiro is the life and soul of that team. This was Pellistri's debut, first team appearance after 2.5 years of signing. My mind is blown, says Akshay. Hi Mark, do you think if we beat City on Saturday we're fighting for top four, says Frederick? I think even if we beat Man City on Saturday, I won't start saying we're going to get top four. I still think, you know, when Dalot went off today, I'm like, that's not the first time that's going to happen. Now, fingers crossed that Dalot injury isn't too bad, but if he's out for 4 weeks, technically we've lost Donny for the season and Dalot for a few weeks in January. And the games are still going to keep coming and coming. I'm terrified about how many injuries we're going to pick up. I genuinely fear we could get 5 or 6 between now and May to first team players. I think that decimates us. So even if we beat City on Saturday, I think this season is so hard to predict because we're going to need so much luck. I think people are getting ahead of themselves. Pellistri is good, but he came on when the game was a bit stretched, says Bradley. Mark, I just look to see the options we have, makes the bench more effective. Hope for the future of the club, says Jason. Antony's absolutely on his way to becoming world class. I truly believe that. I just meant that Pellistri has taken on more people than even Antony, says SK. Good stuff. Ten Hag is fantastic. After the Everton game, he stayed till gone midnight signing autographs outside the stadium, and he clearly values the supporters. It's just a great positive impact on this club, Katie, at a time where we really need it. And Paul says, I like Antony a lot. I think he'll be class. He just needs to strengthen his right foot. He's too predictable in that sense. Other than that, I like him, says Paul. There's development with Antony, of course there is. Let's do the player ratings. Remember, you can catch up with me by doing it through the link in the description. It's on theunitedstand.com. All you've got to do is mark every player out of 10, 6 being the average. We've had over 5,000 votes already. So effectively how this works is when I click my 6 for Tom Heaton, you've given him a 6.4. So that is the most accurate player rating system that exists for Manchester United, because instead of one journalist or me just giving you my opinion, it's actually voted for by thousands of you. So 6.4 is the rating for Tom Heaton, which I can live with. I mean, I think it was his first full game he's played for Manchester United in a cup quarter-final. I don't think he did anything out of the ordinary, but when you compare it to Dubravka in the last round, that was terrifying. So Tom Heaton, it's not easy being a Man United goalkeeper at Old Trafford. And he didn't make any mistakes. There was a couple of crosses that were standard, but if you're nervous, you might miss them. So yeah, I'm happy with 6.5. Pellistri was moving on so smooth when he came on, which is good to see considering it was his debut. And he got an assist, says Beto. And as much as I like a striker, I could see Ten Hag having to play a false 9 at some point and let the front three, whoever is playing at 10, to interchange, says Glenn Tracy. Thank you very much for that as well. Antony keeps possession and allows the team to get up and keep the ball in circulation. Give the lad time, says Al Mani. I think the way Antony plays is so important if you've got Dalot on the pitch to overlap. Dalot, it's got to be a 6, hasn't it? Went off. Hopefully that's not going to be a bad injury because he's only just come back from an injury. Maguire, for me, probably give him a 6. 5.3 from you. Yes, he got booked. He got nutmegged a couple of times. It's Charlton. You should expect a better performance. But on the other hand, did they ever look like scoring? It was quite a comfortable evening for him. I can see why people have marked him down, but maybe a bit of generosity helps. I'd give him an average. I mean, look, did he step up to the plate and look like a world-class defender against the League One side? No, he didn't. He struggled at times, but we got a clean sheet. Martinez, for me, was probably a 6 as well. You know, I think Martinez, I think, again, this is a masterstroke by Ten Hag. You know, actually, I've got to give Martinez 6.5 because you can't give him the same as Maguire. So I've either got to drop Maguire to 5.5 and give Martinez a 6, or I've got to give him a 6.5. He's got to be above Maguire, I agree. But it's very clear that Martinez isn't fully fit, which is why Ten Hag played him tonight. He's got to get match sharpness. I wouldn't be surprised if on Saturday lunchtime he starts Luke Shaw at left centre-back. It depends how match sharp Martinez is. I think there's a bit of a concern about his match sharpness after his World Cup. Understandable celebrations. So maybe it's a fitness thing, but hopefully the 90 minutes tonight, Tuesday, he's ready for Saturday. I agree with your Antony take. Give him time, but please can Antony work on his right foot? If I see another outside foot pass, I might faint, says Andre. If we can win the derby on the weekend, it will be such a statement, says James. And I don't mind who starts or ends the game as long as they have a positive impact and Ten Hag continuously improves the team. We need to support his decisions, says Nail Gun. Right, next player, Malacia. And I'd probably give him a 6. Yeah, you know, I like Malacia. Good to get, you know, I like the fact that he's playing a lot of games. I think it might be you know what? I just said I think we might play him at left centre-back, Luke Shaw. But I think against Man City, with the strength they have on that wing, whether it's Mahrez or Foden or whoever, or Bernardo Silva, I think Luke Shaw's got to play at left-back, hasn't he, when you think about it? But it's good to see Malacia getting so much game time, and the progression is real. Scott McTominay, for me, it's a 5.5. I wouldn't go low as 4. He did play a good... I feel like I'm in his fan club. He did play a good pass to Rashford. Was it Rashford? No, Garnacho. He played a good pass to Garnacho. But he's 25, 26. He's playing a League One mid-table side at Old Trafford. He's not a youngster. He acts like a leader in the dressing room. He's vocal. He's very comfortable at Manchester United. There aren't many excuses for a performance like that. And I feel with McTominay, I've always described him as a really good player to have in the squad and on the bench. But I can't really understand what's going wrong with him at the moment. When I watched him in the games in Spain in early December, again, he should be grabbing hold of the game. He was one of the senior players. He was really poor. He's hardly played since then. And then tonight he was really poor. So I don't know I'm not saying McTominay's levels are high, but I think over the last 2 months he's been really disappointing. Is he carrying an injury? I don't know. But he really has fell off over the last 2 months. And I think when you're playing Charlton Athletic at home, it's a real opportunity to get yourself back in. Fred used it. Fred was bloody brilliant. McTominay was average. Well, he wasn't. He was below average. He should be doing better in a game like that. That's all I'm going to say. Fred, for me, was a 7. I thought he played really well. 6.2? 6.2? I had faith in the chat. I had faith in the ratings. What the fuck? 6. Fred, 6? I thought Fred was brilliant in the first half. That free kick was great. Tenacious. I think he's put himself into the equation to start the derby. You know, it is Charlton, but I think some of his cameos in the last couple of weeks have been much better. How does Elanga get picked ahead of Palestri, says Owen. No, I thought Fred was a 7 tonight. I thought he played well. I don't really get the 6.2 on that one. Maybe it's just an anomaly, or whatever they call it. But no, I thought Fred was good tonight, and I definitely think he's put himself in the equation. Maino, I want to give him a 7. I get why people have given him a 6. I get that, because if you're marking him, and Ten Hag would probably give him a 6, because don't give preferential treatment to young players. You know, and if that was just a normal player, you give him 6. But I think for a debutant who's 17 in a cup quarter final, I don't think he did anything wrong. And, you know, I don't think at any point that he looked like he didn't belong on that pitch. So I think for a debut, 17, in that midfield for Man United, I don't think you can say it's average because we've never seen him before. I think, you know, for his age and a debut, I think he deserves a 7. We should be applauding these young players. We should be rewarding these young players. We should be bigging them up. They're our players. They're our youth. They're our future potentially. And I ain't giving him a 6 when he's had a debut and he's not really done anything wrong. I know he didn't score a goal. I know he didn't assist the goal. But I don't think he looked out of place. I'd happily give him a 7 for that. I think it's very, very good. Antony, probably 6.5 for me. And yeah, I would agree with that. Look, the goal was fantastic. Around the goal was, at times you can see, I'm not going to talk about Antony for long. I think he's getting too much stick. There is improvement there. There are things he can improve on. But the one thing about Antony is he's scoring goals. Like, his goals to game ratio is very good. Yes, there's room for improvement, but I don't think the complaint is justified, really. Garnacho 7.5 for me. I thought that first half was sensational, especially the first 10 minutes. I thought he was brilliant. Hi Mark, would you start Shaw or Malacia at left back for City? I think Luke Shaw's got to start. Really, you need Martinez to start with Varane and Luke Shaw at left back. I'd worry about Malacia up against Mahrez or Bernardo Silva, so I'd rather Luke Shaw start, to be honest. But Ten Hag is the manager. Garnacho 7.5 for me. I thought he was brilliant first half. He looked like a senior pro. He looked like the player that was, he looked like the star man. Second half, he faded a little bit, but I genuinely think Garnacho's a contender for man of the match. And I know where the man of the match probably will go, but I do think he's a contender for man of the match. Elanga 5, just get him out on loan. I really hope that this player's got a future at Manchester United. I really, really do. But we're not seeing anything. Well, we're seeing a very consistent performance, and it's a performance that's not good enough, isn't it? So I want to see more from Elanga. I think we need to loan him out. I think he needs it. I think he's being over promoted. I don't think he's developing. And if I was Elanga, I'd be looking at Mejbri, I'd be looking at Ahmad, and I'd be going, they're developing. I'm not developing. I need to go and play regular first-team football at a level where I can develop. He just looks off the pace at this level. Wan-Bissaka came on and did well, 6.5 for me. Might need to play him on Saturday. Casemiro, 7.5. Just unbelievable player. How you could give him below 7 for those 2 passes for the 2 goals. He's just the heart and soul of that team. I can't keep saying how good he is, but I can, because he is brilliant. Eriksen, probably a 6, 6.3. Yeah, fine with that. I like Eriksen, very important player, but nice to see him get some minutes. Very interesting to see what his role will be in the derby. Very interested. Rashford, you've got to give him an 8 for me. 2 fantastic goals. Was quiet for a long period, actually. In the last 10 minutes, Predator in the box, 2 goals. So, yeah, Rashford's on fire. He's a bit like Casemiro at the moment. And Pellistri, I've got to give him a strong 7. I thought he was really good in the cameo. I want to see more of him. I hope we don't just loan him off. I really hope Ten Hag sees something in him that he wants to utilise. But the big games are coming now. I almost feel with Pellistri, has he missed the boat? Because the games where he could have played, maybe Everton, Bournemouth. But there is one more game where we might be able to use him, Reading in the Cup. So it's just hard to see where he's going to get game time now. You're not going to use him in the Derby, Arsenal. Would you use him at Palace? Semi-finals of the Carabao Cup, which could be Newcastle or City, doubtful. So it's where Pellestri's going to get the chance to grow, which worries me. But I'd like to see it happen. And Ten Hag's got to be a 7 tonight, hasn't he? Again, he's masterfully rotated the team. It's worked really well. We've won the game. Clean sheets, young players playing well, senior players putting themselves in a position to start the derby, like Fred. It's looking good at the moment. The only negative is Delo and how that might be. I'm going to give Garnacho man of the match. I don't know whether this is going to get man of the match. I need to try and predict who. I almost need to stop giving who I think is man of the match and try and second guess who you will give. I think Rashford will get it. Oh, I've done it! Back of the net. I'm happy with that. Smash a like on video. Wakey. Yeah. Absolutely happy with that. Garnacho man of the match. Completely agree. I think the first half was sensational. Of course, he does need to add goals, and at times I think he holds on to the ball too much. But their keeper made some fantastic saves as well. So I do think Rashford could have won it, and I'm not surprised that Rashford got 34% of the votes and Casemiro was third. But I do think that across the 90 minutes, Garnacho set the tone, looked like a senior pro, and was our best attacking player in the first half. And is he not the youngest player? So, look, his development is very interesting at the moment. I think he's exceeding expectation, and it's very exciting. You said you won't start Malacia against City, but against Liverpool, Salah, he played really well. Says Arjan. Look, Arjan, he might do it. I think we're going to have a very interesting week. I think Weghorst will be in and available to play that game. And I do think that Fred might have played his way into the starting lineup, and he might go with Luke Shaw and Varane as centre-backs with Malacia at left-back. He might do it. So I think it's a very exciting week ahead, because that Manchester derby is... I think that Man City game is actually it's all... Man City at Old Trafford's always a big game. It's like Liverpool at Old Trafford. But at this time of the season, on the run that we've had, looking at the league... That game is more than a Manchester derby. It's a mark in the sand. It's a mark in the sand as to where we are. And I think that's going to be very interesting. And how Ten Hag approaches that, it's not obvious what his starting 11 is going to be, is it? Right, they're in the studio for the Fan Forum. This is becoming one of my favourite shows on the United Stand, the Studio Fan Forum. Get into the chat over there. I'm going to push you over there. Make sure you smash a like on the video, and please do subscribe. Get them talking about Weghorst. When's that deal going to be done? I think that's going to be done tomorrow or Thursday, and I think you'll be in the squad for the Manchester derby. But get over there, get the conversation going. Thanks everyone who's been joining me for the last few hours. Absolutely loved it tonight. We had a right good laugh. We're into the semi-final. Let's see who we get tomorrow night. I'll be back on the morning show at 10. Get over onto the studio. I love the studio. Watch it. You'll really enjoy it. Oh, I'm still live. Still live. What's going on? Oh, that's what's going on.